I woke up choking on silence. Not the usual half-sleep, but this messed up halfway point where my brain was wide awake, yet my body refused to get the memo. It was the first time in my life I'd ever felt that bizarre stuck feeling, like my mind was yanking at a leash my bones wouldn't budge from. I remember the overhead light was off. Obviously, I was in bed. But the glow from the street lamp outside streaked orange lines across the ceiling. I tried to move an arm, a leg, something, and it was like I was pinned under a slab of concrete. That's when I realized I couldn't breathe right. My lungs did the shallowest, most useless hiss of an inhale. And then I noticed a shape near the edge of my bed. At first, I tried to be rational. Maybe it was my TV or the dresser or a shadow from the streetlight. But it looked hunched, like a person, and my entire body was on red alert panic mode. My heart hammered so hard I heard the pulse in my ears, except I couldn't do jack shit about it. My arms wouldn't even twitch. Let me tell you, there's a special kind of dread when you can't scream. Your mouth is open, your throat's locked. All I could do was make these pathetic half gasps, as though I'd forgotten how to speak. If you think that's terrifying, try having the shape start to shift in your peripheral vision, real slow, like it was deciding whether to get closer. My eyes watered. I prayed I was still dreaming. Next thing I knew, the lights in the hallway clicked on. I heard them, that definite click sound, and somehow that broke the stranglehold. My body jerked violently and I shot upright, gasping. The room was empty. The shape? Gone. But the hallway light was on, and I sure as hell hadn't turned it on. I sat there, drenched in sweat. My chest was heaving like I'd run a marathon. Before I could wrap my head around it, I heard a neighbor's door slam from upstairs. My heart nearly exploded. I was on edge for the rest of the night. That was my first tango with real sleep paralysis, and if I'd known it was just the opener, I might have just packed a bag and run into the goddamn night. So, yeah. Let me back up. I'm Samantha Holbrook. Sam, to pretty much everyone who's not my mom. I moved into this crappy third-floor studio a month ago. I keep telling people it's charming with vintage flair, but who am I kidding? It's a dump with leaky pipes, mold around the shower tiles, and these weird scuff marks on the hardwood floors that the landlord insists have been there forever. I took it because it was all I could afford after losing my old roommate, Jade, who decided she'd rather move in with her boyfriend than keep sharing a place with me. Thanks for the heads up, Jade. Anyway, I've been trying to make it mine by throwing random rugs and cushions all over. Doesn't help the walls are thin as tissue paper. Every night, I get a front row seat to my upstairs neighbors. Daily meltdown. The only advantage is that the rent is barely within my budget, and it's near my office job. I do a lot of paperwork, scheduling, and coffee runs. Basically everything short of scrubbing the toilets. Although if my boss thought he could get away with it, he'd probably add it to my plate. Stress has been an uninvited roommate for months. I'm talking daily migraines, shaky hands, the works. But I shrugged off that first sleep paralysis crap as a stress dream. At least that's how I rationalized it. I even tried to laugh about it. I remember telling my coworker Damon, "Dude, my brain pulled off some next-level horror show last night." He shrugged and said, "Maybe cut back on the Red Bulls," which was not very helpful advice, especially since Red Bulls are the only thing keeping me from face-planting on my desk most afternoons. A few nights later, it happened again. This time, I was lying on my left side. I remember because I never sleep on my left side. I get weird neck cramps. And again, I woke up paralyzed, my lungs refusing to open properly. My arm was pinned under me, and it felt like something was pressing. A knee into my ribcage. I had this insane conviction that if I looked over my shoulder, I'd see a twisted face breathing down my neck. Except I couldn't. My eyes locked straight ahead, my heart pounding so violently I thought I'd puke. That night, I heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps dragging across my floor. It was a shuffling step, almost like slippers on a hospital floor. Then they paused right at my bedside. My own sweat dripped into my eyes, stinging like hell. I tried to blink it away, but everything was just a suffocating blur. I swore I felt hot breath on my ear. This croaking sound rattled in my left ear, like a guttural whisper in a language that refused to make sense. Then, as quickly as it started, it stopped. My muscles unlocked with a jolt, and I whipped around, half expecting a burglar or a psycho. Nobody was there. I was so rattled I crawled off my bed and spent the rest of that night curled in a blanket on the floor, lights on, TV blaring. I kept thinking, this can't be real. I'm having some kind of meltdown. But I also knew about sleep paralysis. My friend in college had it, and she'd told me horror stories. I just never imagined it would feel this immediate, like an actual entity messing with you. Because I'm a champion of the dumbest decisions known to humankind, I decided to film myself sleeping. I set up my phone on a shelf angled at my bed, so at least if I woke up paralyzed again, I'd have proof. The plan was to see if I was just tossing around or making weird noises. Part of me was convinced I'd catch some burglar creeping in, or maybe my sleepwalking self. Except I've never sleepwalked in my life. The first 2 nights of filming, nothing but me snoring or drooling on my pillow. Riveting. I was starting to think maybe that was it. Some random fluke episodes, done and dusted. Then night 3 happened. I woke to that soul-crushing freeze again. Same shortness of breath, same intangible sense that something was leaning in, wanting to watch me squirm. My eyes darted around the room, the only part of me that could move. And yeah, that shape was back, standing in the corner this time. It looked tall, but not quite right in the shoulders. I couldn't get a good look. My curtains fluttered. There was no breeze. My mouth went bone dry, and I started praying for my phone to do something, anything. Like it'd ring or beep or spook that damn silhouette away. A dull, static hum filled my ears. I can't even properly describe it, like the inside of my skull was fuzzy with radio interference. And then, the silhouette took a single step forward. I felt my entire body tense until I thought my muscles would tear. Next thing I remember, my phone alarm went off for 2 a.m. Don't ask me why I set an alarm for the middle of the night. I do weird experiments when I'm half-conscious. The moment that gentle chime started up, the silhouette vanished. Poof. Everything was normal again, if you call waking up soaked in sweat and trying not to barf normal. Heart pounding, I ran to check my phone's video. For the first few hours, it was me, tossing and turning. Then, around 1:57 a.m., the screen went haywire. The image tore like someone had jostled the phone, and the audio hissed so loud it hurt my ears. I definitely saw myself in bed, motionless, eyes open. Then, for half a second, a flicker of something behind me. Could have been my reflection on the dark window or a glitch in the phone's camera. But it looked like a tall figure, with stooped shoulders, and the weirdest part? Its head was sort of turned at an angle like it was looking down at me. Then the screen went black until my alarm woke me up. That was it. No crisp 4K video of a demon dancing on my bed, but enough to turn my stomach. I spent the entire day at work Googling sleep paralysis, hallucinations, how to fix your goddamn life, everything. The search results were not comforting. Half the sites said it was a demon. The other half said it's normal brain misfiring. I decided I'd accept the brain misfire angle for my own sanity. But my gut was not convinced. By the next week, the episodes started happening almost nightly. I was losing it. Bags under my eyes the size of suitcases, jittery hands, that lovely sensation of always needing another coffee just to blink. My manager asked if I was on something, which pissed me off enough to snap. Then I had to apologize to keep my job. That night, I half-heartedly tried a few remedies I found online. Meditation? Sure. Boring. Chamomile tea? Tastes like soggy lawn clippings. No more caffeine after 6 p.m.? That had me glaring at my alarm clock at midnight, wide awake, cursing my existence. On top of that, the apartment itself started feeling like a villain. The radiator clanked so loudly I'd jump out of my skin. My fridge made these weird gurgling noises in the dead of night. The overhead light in the hallway flickered whenever I walked by, which felt like a personal jab. And my upstairs neighbor? The fights got worse. I heard chairs scraping, angry voices. I nearly called the cops, but then it would go dead quiet. The hush sometimes felt more threatening than the yelling. During one of these nightly paralysis sessions, I heard what sounded like a phone ringing on the other side of my bedroom wall. A shrill, old-fashioned ring, too. But my neighbors don't have landlines, and I sure as hell don't. While I lay there, stuck in my own body, the ring echoed 5 times, then ended with a click. I realized tears were running down my face, and I couldn't wipe them. At that moment, I would have given anything just to move my pinky finger. Then came a low voice that said, "God, I hate even typing this out. Stay still." It felt like it was right next to my ear, a hoarse whisper. If you've never felt raw panic in your bloodstream, let me tell you, it's a special brand of torture. You want to thrash, you want to scream, you want to bolt for the door. But your body says, nah. So you lie there, sweaty and wide-eyed, listening to a voice that shouldn't exist. I'd heard about the so-called Old Hag and sleep paralysis lore. Some crone perched on your chest, pressing the air out of you. Let me say that rumor isn't exactly comforting, but I thought it was one of those internet myths. Until the night I actually felt something settle on my ribcage. It was around 3 a.m. I know because that damn neon green clock on my nightstand burned the time into my retinas. I woke up face up, arms at my sides, pinned like a butterfly under glass. My vision was partly blocked because there was something on me. It was heavier than any hallucination I'd had before. My lungs made these pathetic wheezes and I started freaking out. I felt a bony pressure on my sternum, and the shape above me had a vaguely human silhouette. Its face, if you could call it that, looked sunken, with deep lines or shadows where eyes might be. I couldn't see a mouth, just a sliver of darkness that might have been parted lips. If I could have closed my eyes to block it out, I would have. But sleep paralysis is the gift that keeps on giving. You're forced to stare. A buzzing filled my skull, like an insect trapped in my ear. The figure leaned closer. I swear the air grew sour, tinged with something like old copper. My heart hammered. I must have tried to scream, but only a rasping exhale came out. Then, the weight shifted. The shape slid off me, drifting backward toward the end of my bed, and disappeared, like a glitch in a video game. There 1 second, gone the next. My chest burned as I jerked free of the paralysis, flipping onto my side, panting. The next 10 minutes were just me trembling, hugging my knees, telling myself out loud, "It's not real, it's not real, it's not real." But everything about it sure felt real as hell. That was the breaking point. I called up Jade, my ex-roommate, and basically begged to crash on her couch, but she was out of town with her boyfriend. Typical. I phoned my mom, sobbing, telling her I might come home for a bit. But she's in Florida taking care of my grandma. Nobody was around to help me. I was stuck with this messed up apartment, the looming shadows, and my own shitty luck. I decided to fight back in the only way I knew how. I started reading everything about sleep paralysis, academic articles, medical journals, personal accounts. They all said basically the same thing. No one's quite sure how it works, but it's a glitch between your REM sleep and waking state. Blah, blah, blah. Great. So I was basically at the mercy of my own scrambled brain chemistry. Some folks recommended sleeping on your side. Some swore by exercise. Some said, clean your bedroom, reduce stress, keep a sleep schedule. Fine. I tried all of the above. Spent a whole Saturday scrubbing the apartment from top to bottom. I tossed out piles of junk, reorganized my closet, even rearranged my bed so it wasn't by the window. Honestly, I was proud of myself. That night, I was certain I'd turned over a new leaf. I put on some chill music, turned out the lights, and drifted off. Guess what? The universe gave me a big middle finger. Because the worst episode I've ever had slammed me that same night. This time, not only was I pinned and gasping, I heard the floor creak, saw the silhouette slink right up to my pillow. It hovered, there, unbelievably close. My entire body locked up in a panic so intense, I honestly thought my heart might just bail out. Then it leaned over me, and that voice rasped, "Don't move." 2 words, clear as day. I felt a cold sensation on my forehead like an icicle pressed against my skin. Its hand? Its breath? I'm not sure. My eyes teared up so badly I almost couldn't see. A frantic drumbeat pulsed in my eardrums. My heart, I think. Then, the silhouette flickered. Literally flickered like a bad TV signal. It snapped out of view. My body jolted up, free again. In those first seconds, I was so desperate to flee, I tumbled out of bed and practically crawled to the light switch. When I flipped it on, the room was just normal. 4 walls, a dresser, a messy desk. No shadows, no presence. Just me, my galloping pulse, and the leftover adrenaline making my fingers twitch. That was last night. I haven't slept since. Just gulped coffee and wrote this entire account in my phone's notes app, pacing around my tiny kitchen area. My hands are shaking even now. Part of me is furious that my brain can conjure such horrifying illusions. But another part wonders if illusions can flip the damn hallway light switch or record themselves on a phone. I keep replaying the phone video from 2 weeks ago, searching for some frame that explains everything. But it never does. This morning I called in sick to work. Told my boss I had the flu. I think I'm done lying to myself. I need help. Actual medical help, maybe. Or a place with fewer peeling walls and questionable stains. But there's a part of me that wonders if I can outrun this at all. What if it's not the apartment? What if it's me? At sunrise, I dragged out my suitcase. I'm not sure where I'll go, but I need a break from these walls that have watched me scream in silence. Or tried to anyway. I keep imagining that stooped shape lurking behind me in the mirror, waiting for me to doze off and let my guard down. That's probably going to follow me no matter where I sleep. Honestly, I feel like my sanity's on the edge of a cliff, and I'm staring into a black pit. If I slip, I might plummet right back into that paralyzed limbo, pinned by the weight of something I can't name. All I can do is keep my eyes open, keep my body in motion, breathe, remind myself I'm awake, really awake. I'd love to end on a note of triumph and say, I'll beat this. But if you've ever spent hours in that half-dead, half-lucid state, you know that monster doesn't just vanish because you scrubbed your floors or brewed some sleepy time tea. It lurks in the body's wiring, waiting for the perfect moment to sabotage your mind. What I do know is that I'm not going to let it break me. If I have to chain myself to a coffee pot or scream into a pillow every time I feel that creeping heaviness, so be it. I'll fight until my last nerve flickers out. Because that thing, or that presence, or whatever the hell we call it, thrives on fear and helplessness. And I'll be damned if I let it rule my nights forever. Still, I can't unsee that face, or the shape I caught on camera. Sleep paralysis or not, part of me believes something visits me when I'm at my weakest. Something old, heavy, and hungry. And if that's the case, I'm done being its late-night snack. So here I am, standing in the doorway of my half-packed apartment. My eyes sting from lack of sleep. My brain is fried, and I'm out of easy answers. Maybe by the time I find a new place, this horror will be just a terrible memory. But if it's not, well, I guess I'll become the woman who never sleeps. I've got enough coffee pods to wage war, and an iron will to keep me from caving to the illusions. I just hope that next time I open my eyes in the middle of the night, I can move. Because if I can't, and that damned shape comes back, I'm not entirely sure I'll have the guts to face it again. I guess I'll find out. You made it to the end, but are you sure the story's over? Some things have a way of sticking with you, creeping back in when you least expect it. If you want more nightmares, there's another story waiting for you right here. But don't say I didn't warn you. And before you go, tell me in the comments, what would you have done differently? Or maybe the better question is, what would you do if this ever happened to you? Subscribe if you haven't already. Just don't blame me when you start sleeping with the lights on.